to Onesies, a podcast of one season wonders and blunders. My name's Andrew.
My name is Emily.
And we are wrapping up. We are in the last three
Uh,
episodes now of
I've
Dracula the series.
I've got to get your completion gift out to you in the mail soon, so you can have it.
Well, I was
the last
thinking
day.
next season, what if instead of doing a different show, we could just rewatch this, but focus on every commercial between every commercial break and do, I don't know, what would that be? Times four, 125, 8 episodes or something? Would you rather do that?
Yes. No, obviously not. Obviously not.
Yes, and she's actually married to Joe Ronsetti, everyone. That's the spoiler.
I'm not married to Joe Ronsetti, unfortunately.
Okay. Could have let that bit go for the end of the episode, just saying. All right. Joe Ronsetti. We'll get a letter from his solicitor. Okay. What are your three things? Oh, wait, hold on. The episode. The episode is called Bats in the Attic. It guest stars Phil Bedard in a bit part, but Jack Bloom of Meatballs won. He played Spaz in Meatballs, if you want to talk about problematique. As though Meatballs itself were not problematique. But yes, so Meatballs is a 1979 Canadian summer camp comedy starring a young Bill Murray that was famous for starring Bill Murray. And I believe it sucks big time. I can't remember for sure, but I'm pretty sure it does.
I don't know, but I feel like they reference Meatballs in episodes of Freaks and Geeks. I feel like the geeks reference Meatballs.
They really liked Stripes too, and that sucks.
Yeah,
so
they're big comedy heads, and Neil was a Bill Murray fan. So anyway, my three things.
Yes.
I want third-rate zombies and swaying sight gag.
Okay. Yes. All right. So mine will be continuity would be too easy. I don't know. Not funny. Gustav. Herr Bluken made me laugh because it reminded me of Young Frankenstein. Okay. So this is hard. I've got some, but you sort of took. Okay. So I'm just going to go with Hot and Steamy. This I don't have starred, but this will encompass some things quite well. Stately, plump Buck Helsing, and passive misogyny.
Okay, great.
Okay, none of the things I had done, but except for Hot and Steamy, of course, because.
Well, I left that for you. I left that for you.
Well, I thought we would have more. We could also do a T-shirt for the bookstore. So,
yeah.
The episode opens with a schnitzel delivery at a bookstore.
I was so excited for the Hot and Steamy Schnitzel delivery guy because he doesn't have a picture on IMDb, and he is credited as Hot and Steamy Schnitzel delivery guy. Folks, it let me down.
So it's called Hot and Steamy Schnitzel. That is the name of the schnitzel shop, and it's in English, which raises our traditional problem.
And the delivery guy looks like the guy who might deliver your food, deliver your pizza.
He's a DoorDash guy.
Yeah, he's a DoorDash guy.
I googled Hot and Steamy Schnitzel Luxembourgish to English. And the second result is Dracula the series Hot and Steamy Schnitzel Delivery Boy. Okay, so, but the bookstore is called the Librairie. So I didn't get the full title of it.
Yeah, it's like two people's names, I think, but it's not the guy who we meet, the character who we meet. Yeah. But Hot and Steamy Schnitzel Delivery Guy is wearing the best sweatshirt I've ever seen that just says Hot and Steamy. And Andrew, make me one. I want a gray sweatshirt, crew neck. That's what I want. Hot and Steamy.
Merch.
Baby.
Merch, everyone. You got it. That'll be our downfall. We're gonna start taken over the trademark on Hot and Steamy Schnitzel, even though the shirt doesn't say Schnitzel.
No.
It just says Hot and Steamy.
And that's all I want it to say.
It will. And this actually, I'm going to photo reference it and create it perfect. So yes, Schnitzel guy gets to this bookstore, and a weird young man opens the door and says, "Oh, that's for Alfred. He can't come down and you have to take it up because I'm afraid of heights." And so Hot and Steamy Schnitzel guy takes it up the stairs saying things like, "I've got your schnitzel. It's hot and steamy." Okay, I don't know. Whenever I hear something like that or sliders, it's dog shit and snow, right? Like Midwest, it's dog shit and snow. When you're like, you don't have a dog, but your neighbor's got a dog, you're like, what's going on over there? When you're a little kid and they're like, yeah, it's the dog shit. It's hot and steamy in the snow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he's taking it up the stairs, and we see in the distance of this attic what appears to be a coffin.
Yes.
Which throws our Hot and Steamy Schnitzel guy for a loop. And then he turns and starts saying, "No, no, 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 no," as a POV shot, zooms in on him, and apparently something bad is about to happen to him. So apparently Alfred is a vampire, and weird guy downstairs sends him schnitzel delivery men as victims.
Yeah.
Cut to opening credits. Now, I think this is the first time we've ever had an intro that didn't have anything to do with the main characters of the episode of the show, right? Can you think of an intro that didn't have either the family or Lucard or Klaus?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay. So now we are on episode 19. So there are 2 more episodes left. We then cut from the credits from the opening titles to Gustav trying to write his memoirs. Gustav has never done shit with his life except get his son turned into a vampire near as we have seen.
Yeah.
That's it. He's not hunting Dracula.
He taught somewhere at some university for some period of time. He can afford a giant ass house, and he collects children, wayward children.
That is correct. Okay. So he talks to Sophie about how hard it is to write chapter 1, page 1, line 1, which is after that I noted his memoirs of what? So
I wrote down parade of famous first lines because I knew it was coming, where we were going to hear famous first lines that he would think of and then be like, "Oh, I can't use that. It's already been used." And I was like, I prefer to know what his last words are going to be. Like, give me that. Kill this motherfucker. I'm done.
You've been saying that since the first episode.
I'm so done.
Okay, so then Max comes in and he's like, "Where are you going, Max? You need to tell me where you're going." And Max is like, "I want to go to look at a bookstore and all the cool stuff."
So this is the first time we actually usually we see Gustav like chiding the kids, like, "Don't follow me, it's dangerous," like that type of thing. But I feel like this is the first time we see Gustav giving a shit about what the kids are doing, like just in general. And like,
I mean, yes, for the first 10 episodes, our comments were always like, yeah, Max and Gustav go off and do something, and they're like, "Hey, Chris and Sophie, you can go upstairs and explore each other's bodies now." Like, we don't care.
But he's never seemed to give a shit to begin with, and now he's like, "You have to ask permission to leave the house," and it's like, when did this happen? He's been leaving the house, biking around, killing vampires. Chris and Sophie are up banging. Well, maybe not.
No, so this. Yes, speaking of continuity, we'll get to that in a second. Actually, we'll get to it right now because Chris comes in, and so he just had a rock and roll performance that didn't go well. And this is also where Gustav realizes his schnitzel isn't there yet. What's going on? And then you get "it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. No, can't use that." And his, "Well, what about stately, plump Buck Helsing?" And I'm like, he's a 70s porn star? Like, And I mean, like, that does sort of fit Gustav's demeanor, like a 70s porn star in Toronto, like
Yeah.
just the seedy underbelly of Toronto triple X cinema is what Gustav was into. Okay.
And
Now
Sophie
here's
is
what
there somehow. I forget how. Oh,
she's
she's
hanging
asking
out.
him.
She's just hanging out.
She had been
Yeah.
asking him about his memoir. That's right.
And what because he's typing on his typewriter, which is going to come back for absolutely no reason.
No reason.
Other than to give Bernard Behrens a chance to act poorly. Like, if it weren't for Chris's Canadian accent, Bernard Behrens would be giving him a run this episode.
Yeah.
So yes, so now Chris and Sophie talk, and Sophie explains to him that the reason his songs aren't doing well is because, it's the lyrics. And Chris is like, what are you talking about? I write perfectly normal lyrics. Boy meets girl, girl becomes vampire, boy rescues girl, girl goes squirrely, to which Sophie gets uncomfortable. Now, what happened at the end of the Sophie vampire transformation episode was they said they loved each other, and the reason she wanted to be a vampire is so they could love each other forever. Got no resolution for that. And then next episode, his girlfriend came back, or that episode, and we were very confused about the placement of this.
Yeah.
But then the girlfriend is gone again and never mentioned again. But they had gotten back together in that episode, which means girl goes squirrely is incorrect, even if it's not out of order. There will be no resolution whatsoever.
I don't think there will be.
Misogyny.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that was really stupid and I hated it. But Sophie's doing this thing that she had been doing where she's like all sultry. Like, hey, Chris. Like, this is how she's going to try to get what she wants, right? She's got suggestions. I'll write the songs for you.
She tried it with Max that episode.
She did.
Max,
hey,
give me a cello.
Yeah. Viola.
Whatever. Okay, so Sophie tells him that he's too American, and this is Europe, and I will write the songs for you.
Yeah.
And Chris goes, we'll be like Jaggers and Jagger and Richards. And she's like, I thought we could be more like Giacosa and Puccini. And he was like,
he rolls his eyes. Yeah. He's like, yeah, right. That's exactly what I was thinking too.
She then takes Gustav's typewriter, where he has not written his memoirs yet, and says, let's go be brilliant. Okay. Cut to daytime castle.
We missed my thing though.
What thing?
My first thing. I want. Chris is like, so do you want to go in on this together? You want to write music for you want to write the lyrics for me? Do you want to do that? And she goes, I want. Like, she gets right in his face, and it's this gross, sultry thing that she's doing. No. I say no. I don't want.
I mean, I think Michael Bay would disagree with you about sexualizing teenage girls for the audience. Like,
well, we lost our Michael Bay audience for this. Way to go.
I didn't realize there was that Venn diagram for Woody Allen and Michael Bay, but there really is. Wow. Somewhere Woody Allen's just like, Michael Bay really got a bum rap for the way he treated Megan Fox. Bunch of libs. The libs were after him. Okay. God, anyway. Woody Allen would never say that. He'd have Diane Keaton say it for him. Okay, moving on to the castle. Hey, she doesn't do a lot of interviews anymore. On to the castle. So it's the castle during the daytime, and it looks entirely different than the castle at nighttime.
Yeah. Very weird.
To the point I'm like, that's not the same castle. Did he move? And it's like, no, it's the same interior set. And I'm like, that's not this. But yes, so Dracula is there with his butler, Felix, and then another vampire, a zombie vampire.
Yeah.
Now, we learned about these zombie vampires. They were given that name only a few episodes ago, but they've been part of the show since the beginning. And it's like they forgot to fucking explain it to us when they could have done it in the pilot, or at least in the first episode after it got picked up. But I don't know how Luxembourgish Canadian co-productions work with pilot season. So Dracula is ranting about impurities in the vampire population, sounding very
eugenics.
Luxembourgish. I was going to say, which side was Luxembourg on in?
I don't think they were on the side. I don't think they were on the side.
Okay, but this is where your lean is. This is where you get the first comedy beat, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" This is where the episode turns a corner after Hot and Steamy.
Yeah. So this swaying sight gag thing that they do. He's talking directly to the third-rate zombie, which I don't know what that means. Like, what is a third? Like, zombies are brainless servants, right? In this context. So what is a third-rate zombie? Is it because Lucard dresses his in tuxedos and this guy's dressed up like a gardener? Is it a classist thing?
Don't forget that lady vampire said she was going to convert his zombie vampires into regular vampires too.
Right.
So like this zombie vampires in Dracula the series lore are like intentionally muddled. Like they're like, it's a mind control. I don't know if it's a constant mind control, but like they do have capabilities beyond being this if the vampire in charge wanted them to. And it doesn't have to be the vampire who turned them, because Lady could turn those two dudes back then. So it's like...
So I know we haven't quite gotten to it yet. So this, well, we'll get to the hot and steamy zombie later, but I have questions. I have questions about why he's a zombie.
You spoiled Hot and Steamy vampire.
I'm so sorry, listeners.
The sight gag, yes.
So he's talking to this third-rate zombie, and you get a shot of Lucard's face and the back of the zombie's head, and the zombie's sort of swaying back and forth, and I'm doing it. I don't know why. You can't see me. And Lucard is next to him, swaying exactly the same. And it lasts for like 15 seconds. It was hilarious.
It lasts long enough.
It was hilarious.
I could cut the Larry David music to it.
It was so funny. Well, I don't know if it was intentional or not.
It was intentional. That was my first thing. I was like, are they fucking up? And I'm like, no, this is a comedy beat.
Out of nowhere. It was so good. Why am I loving Lucard more and more? Like, why?
Because he's gotten better while everything else has stayed the same or gotten worse.
He's so good.
A marked improvement. Yes.
He is so good.
If it were just his show of his like silly vampire adventures, it could work.
If it was just him being kind of snobby and sophisticated and also doing these weird snarky comedy things, I would love it.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's do that show. Let's get Geordie Johnson on the phone.
Doesn't seem like he wants anybody to contact him based on his IMDb profile. Yeah, he seems to not be trying to dig up the old fan base. Okay, so then he tells the butler Felix to take this wretched thing out and liquidate him. And then they leave, and he says for the audience, looks like there's a rogue vampire for me to deal with. All right. Now we get to hear some of Chris and Sophie's music. So maybe the reason Chris is not doing well over there in the Eurovision contest is because he's doing rockabilly. So Chris is playing rockabilly and Sophie is dancing.
Out comes Sophie Nix. Sophie Nix comes out wearing her long, lacy dress, kind of running around on stage. I don't have positive opinions about Stevie Nicks, so she just kind of looks like a ding dong dummy. And I wrote down bad poetry, oh noetry, because I mean, essentially what she's doing is like interpretive dance, poetry, like an art performance over rockabilly music. Yeah, like it's so bad.
And so they've never shown her playing an instrument with Chris. Like we've never actually seen them try to collaborate musically. But then, yes, she does her performance. Do you need me to get that for you so you can include it?
No.
Will they ding us if we include this? Okay. But then we cut to a reaction shot from Chris. And like has happened in the last few episodes, there's no reaction shot. It's like they cut to the reaction shot and then immediately cut without time for the reaction to come in. So it's like, was there a scene there? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Instead, we cut downstairs to Gustav realizing after hours that his typewriter is missing.
Why did she need a typewriter to write this poem? Why couldn't she just...
Dude,
it was the 90s. She could have just written on it on a notebook.
What?
She's in Europe. Doesn't she know how to like do calligraphy?
Haven't you ever read a Peanuts cartoon? You write with your typewriter, obviously. Snoopy does it. Gustav and Sophie do it. Okay. This is terrible. Here we go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Gustav's looking for his typewriter. Max comes in with Lawrence.
From the bookstore.
From the first scene from the bookstore. Lawrence looks at the cross on the Magyar cross, episode 2 Magyar cross, smiles at it, and gets introduced to Gustav, who Max introduces as a vampire expert. Does he introduce Lawrence as a vampire? He introduces
Gustav as the vampire expert.
Gustav gets a little upset that Max is talking about vampires again,
Yeah.
And then Max is like, no, Lawrence knows a lot too. I thought we could share notes or something. And Gustav's like, well, I need my typewriter. And so he then accuses Lawrence of taking it in a failed comedy beat.
And points was it a poker for a fireplace at right at his face.
It's
not
dumb.
good.
It's very dumb. So then Max is like, but Lawrence has taught me some interesting ways of killing vampires. Did you know you can kill a vampire with a church Saxon shovel? Did you know you can seal them in their coffin with a silver nail and hammer? Pin on that.
Yeah.
And then Lawrence is like, oh, and then you've got the cross of the Magyars, but it wouldn't work on me. And Max is like, of course not. You're a vampire.
You're not a vampire. You're not a vampire.
You're not a vampire. And then Lawrence is like, well, yes, it would. Or no, it still wouldn't if I were. But why? Max asks. And Gustav is like, because you invited him in, Max. That's what you're not supposed to be doing.
Yeah, you idiot. You fucking idiot asshole. You little shit. Stop inviting people into our house. They could be vampires. Fucking moron.
To which Max then says, did you know Alexander Lucard is a vampire? And then we have this weird thing where Lawrence takes a while to realize that he knows who Alexander Lucard of Lucard Industries is, even though his town is the worldwide headquarters of this mega corporation.
And as he mentions, he walks by the Lucard's castle every single day. Yeah. Stupid. And Gustav is like, oh no, it's just a rumor. It might not be real.
Oh, we're also getting no follow-up on on last episode's ending where Lucard killed the person who was going to out him either. So we never find out Gustav's reaction to his former student being suspiciously dying in a plane crash.
We should make a list of all of the loose ends that this show leaves.
That's what we're doing next season when we go through it. Over 150 episodes, scene by scene, line
all
by
the
line.
Loose ends, because we've got the girlfriend's dad who started working for Lucard, and the girlfriend who vanished, who would make a beautiful vampire. Whatever, she's a teenage girl. Lucard, keep your hands off her. We just don't have any.
Lucard would be like, actually, she's 25 and she's been perving around with the teenagers. So me turning her into a vampire actually probably saves kids. Like,
fair enough.
But yes, we have many loose ends. I don't think Mom's going to be back before the end of the show either.
No.
Okay, so then Lawrence is like, well, I better get back to my store. And on his way out, he runs into Schnitzel Delivery Man. It's time for some hot and steamy schnitzel.
So the first time I didn't notice, but he kind of like gives him a look and like a huff. And then like walks away. Like he kind of like, he recognizes that he knows who it is. Kind of, I don't know if it's a laugh or what, but, and then he runs off. I thought that was interesting. It's like it's unnecessary, but I thought it was interesting that it was even filmed.
I think, what's his face? What's the name of the guy who plays Lawrence again?
I forget.
Meatballs. Jack Bloom. I feel like Jack Bloom was trying hard.
Yeah,
he was trying hard. They in one of the descriptions they say Norman Bates type, and it's like, yeah, Jack Bloom is trying out for. He's using his skills for his. This is 1990, 91.
91.
When was that last? When was Psycho 4? Wasn't that 92? Maybe he thought he could be Norman Bates in a Psycho reboot or something. But so then Gustav says, stay away from him. He's too weird for you to play with. He's too weird of one of these adult men that you hang out with, Max. This one's too far. You need to go hang out with the Boffin again.
You need to go hang out with that Gene Shalit looking motherfucker one more time.
That liked hanging out with you when you wore the shorty shorts.
Gene Shalit.
Oh, okay. So then they see the schnitzel guy. Is Gustav going to get money or something?
Why? Yes. But why?
He's getting day old schnitzel.
And he's going to pay for it?
Yeah. So the guy walks in and gets immediately zapped by the curse of the cross of the Magyar.
Including the schnitzel. And I had written down.
Including the schnitzel.
I had written down, the schnitzel isn't a vampire or a zombie.
No. But that's how CGI worked in 1991. You couldn't differentiate those two things. Yes, because that would be way too cool of a shot if, like, he disintegrated, but the schnitzel just fell on top of him and Gustav ate it anyway. But Gustav is not that fucking cool at all.
No.
Okay. So then Max is watching the whole thing, and Gustav comes in and goes, oh, this should be trouble. I'm going to call Herr Blüchen right now, to which is when I was like, it'd be so funny if the horses went off in the stable, a la Young Frankenstein. But then he's going to go call the guy's boss and Karen about it. And Max is in charge of sweeping up the dead guy, to which I was like, this is a kid show.
Yeah.
So we're then on the phone with Herr Blüchen, where Gustav is like, the schnitzel was good, but a little overdone.
Waka waka.
No, I don't think he'll be on his way back. He's a little undead. I mean, unwell. But tell me where he's been, because this could be a health risk. And then Gustav's going to go talk to the guy right now. And he tells Max to stay here and to not get involved.
Okay, before we move on, why the fuck did the schnitzel guy get turned into a zombie? Why wasn't he just thrown away? Like, drain him of his blood and throw him away.
It seems as though the vampire is incompetent as far as the other outcomes. Because Dracula, Lucard's upset about all these vampire zombies being around now, which doesn't make any sense with the resolution either, because they should have been around the whole fucking time, and it should have been oh my god, it should have been a season-long subplot.
Oh my god. Can the last episode just be like Lucard's zombies versus like the subrate zombies?
Okay, I'm just saying, if we could get Pedro Pascal to commit to this, we could do a reboot. People would love it.
Well,
people would love it.
As what character? Because I already wrote down Chuck Wagner as Dracula in the Dracula the series revival. I mean, I love Pedro Pascal as well.
Lucard?
Yeah.
Or as Gustav?
Chuck as Lucard.
Okay. Do you think Chuck still has that energy at 65 or whatever he is? You know this because you've been to his shows?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm constantly taking cruises. This is just a background that you see. I put it up every week. So you think that I'm at home, but I'm not. I'm on a cruise right now. Chuck Wagner is actually outside my room waiting for this to be over.
For people even slightly more healthy lives than ours. Chuck Wagner was in Automan, which we did for a season, which was a special watch too. Also Emily Spick. And he has since become the Robert Goulet of Princess Cruises or whatever.
Literally, he does Robert Goulet shit. Like he did
intentionally. He's proud of it. Yeah.
No. He did like a benefit, not a benefit, but like a show for like Goulet's wife, who maybe is still alive. And he did like, we love Robert Goulet stuff. It was great. Not that I've seen it.
Yes. Well, maybe he'll end up playing the Robert Goulet part in the Naked Gun relaunch. But okay, so Mr. Lawrence Lee is at the castle. He has come to visit Dracula. This is also an interesting episode because we never see Lucard at his office.
Yeah.
And also, speaking of those other loose ends you were wondering about, all of those professional people that Lucard turned into vampires to work for him as his brain trust, they've never shown up.
Never.
Okay. Lawrence wants Lucard to turn him into a vampire. And so we get this weird moment where he's
really creepy.
Lucard's like, I always like meeting new blood. And Lawrence is like, well, I want to offer you some new blood. And then, you don't know what I mean by new blood. And then he's like, yes, I do. And he shoves out his neck.
He pulls down that ugly, stupid turtleneck that he's wearing and exposes his neck. And then there's a commercial break, but he's literally begging Lucard to turn him into a vampire. Please, please. He's like a sniveling weenie begging Lucard to turn him into a vampire. It was so uncomfortable.
What are you talking? You're on Twitter. You've seen people reply to Elon Musk. That's far more. I'm
barely on Twitter.
This is far less pitiful than that. Yes. To which Lucard stops in the middle of his full fang out and says, I don't think you want to be a vampire for the right reasons.
Yeah, he goes on a tirade about, they don't appreciate me and they think that I'm not, but we never find out who they is. They underestimate me and they don't take me seriously and blah, blah, blah. Do we?
Well, I mean, they don't exist. They are a figment of his imagination. This is what we'll discover. But Lucard's like, you think being a vampire will make them think of you as significant. And then Lawrence is like, try telling me I'm insignificant when I drain their blood.
Yeah.
And Lucard's like, you've got an axe to grind. I don't want another vampire like that. Klaus reference.
Speaking of loose ends.
And then Lawrence is like, I want to be the most popular or the greatest vampire in the world. And Lucard's like,
that position's already been filled.
Yes. And then Lawrence is like, you're my last chance, to which it's like, well, no, there are other vampires out there, right? Like,
yeah.
And then
Lucard, in the first scene we see him in, was just complaining about how there were too many vampires.
Those were zombie vampires, though. They can't turn people. Okay. And then Lawrence drops the Alfred won't do it. And Lucard's like, wait a second, who's Alfred?
Yeah.
And Lawrence says, he's my friend who lives upstairs and won't make me a vampire. And then when Lucard asks if Alfred is a vampire, now remember, we've seen that coffin upstairs, Lawrence gets cagey, but then Lucard says, okay, give your address to my zombie vampire butler, and I will visit you sometime to accommodate your wishes.
Yeah.
Now, cut to Chris and Sophie preparing to go out and play music on the streets. Chris has some Canadian accenting here, but there's also this weird subtext to the scene where Sophie's like, you don't have any faith in us. And Chris is like, I do have faith in us, Sophie. She's like, you need to stick to business, Chris. And
it's weird.
Okay, who told them to tone this down? Like,
there hasn't been this romantic subplot since the girlfriend episode,
which we think was out of order.
And it's never come back except with these references.
Yes, but we're not getting the girlfriend reference.
No.
So it's very weird, which fits into my conspiracy theory. They cut together episodes from other pieces. Like they tacked on, well, I don't know though, because like maybe Sophie Queen of the Night was supposed to air way earlier or something.
Maybe.
I think we decided that, but then the girlfriend episode definitely was, but the Sophie episode leads directly into the girlfriend episode, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway. So they're going to go out, but then Max interrupts them and says, Gustav's been gone an hour. We need to go help him.
Okay.
And they're like, and Sophie's like, Gustav told you to stay out of it, Max. And then Max is like, but I want to go help. And Chris is like, we should go help. And Sophie's like, Chris knows that he's coming with me to do our thing because he's henpecked because she's an overbearing woman. And I'm just like, they really, really treated Mia Kirshner bad on this show.
Yeah, like, they really did.
Really, really bad. But then Max says, well, I know somebody who can help if you don't want to. And he goes to the bookstore. The door is open, so he naturally finds his way up to the attic, which is a totally normal thing you would do when searching a business establishment.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you noticed this, but the lights in the attic went on while he was walking up the stairs.
I didn't notice that. No.
It was like, because I think he might have a flashlight or something, but the lights definitely go on above him. And I'm like, oh, you guys are just great. But he gets up there, he sees the coffin, he gets ready with a stake. So like Max is prepared. But then when he sees the vampire, he stabs it and it deflates. Because it's a blow-up doll, which raises a lot of questions. A lot of questions. The coffin then opens. Lawrence gets out and says, what have you done? You killed Alfred.
Yeah.
Max is like, oh, wait, maybe this guy is messed up. And he's like, it was only a doll, dude.
Yeah.
And Lawrence says, he was my friend. Every boy needs a friend. You've done a terrible thing, and you will be punished. But wait, Lucard comes in the blue transporter. Oh God, what would they have even cut this on? The school AV lab transporter beam comes in, and Lucard appears. And okay, well, we're missing this, that Lawrence's personality seems very different at this point, right?
Yeah.
And he fangs out too. He's already fanged out before Lucard shows up. And so Lucard shows up, and I'm pretty sure Max says, oh boy, because I have that written down, which is just, okay. Like, dude, he's in every episode. You should get used to this. Like, you've never had a resolution without him.
Yeah. And he's about to save your ass again.
So Lawrence is like, how nice of you to drop in, turn me into a vampire. And Lucard's like, somebody already has. And then they're like, maybe it's Alfred. But then he sees that it's a dummy. Max makes a move toward Lucard with the stake, to which Lucard says, I'm in a bad enough mood already.
Yeah. Like, get off me, you little twerp.
He says, no more zombie making for you, Lawrence. Puts him in the coffin, picks it up with one hand.
Which I loved. Okay. I loved that special effect of him just standing there holding this 8-foot coffin, 7-foot coffin, just with one hand, and then whoop, disappears. And then Gustav comes running into the room, right?
Then Gustav comes running in, and he's like, where is he? He's like, gone. And then they talk a little bit about the dummy, and then Gustav says, what's going on, Max? Max is like, I will tell you only if you promise not to get mad.
For
and then there's
disobeying. Yeah.
disobeying. So we've apparently, at some point in the series, Gustav has gotten to be a bit of a taskmaster.
Well, we've seen it before, though, in other episodes where it's like, kids, I'm going to ship you off to Uncle Wilhelm's house.
Yes. Usually to keep them safe when he's
Yeah.
vampire hunting.
Yes.
But we also don't know if Gustav's learned anything about the vampires.
Right.
Or what he's doing there. But then Max is like, Gustav's like, it better be good. Max is like, it is. Cut to commercial. Very cute family scene, not. And instead, we are back home where Sophie and Chris are now performing in the living room.
And it's bad. Still different.
But bad.
But bad.
So Gustav and Max get in and say, oh, Gustav's like, oh, didn't it go well? And Chris is like, actually, it was a hit because European audiences suck. And then Max says, I love it, Sophie. And I couldn't actually tell if he was being a dick or if he was being nice.
Yeah.
It's impossible to tell. Even though Jacob Tierney is better than he was, he's still not good.
Yeah.
And that's it for them. Then we cut to Lucard and Lawrence having a therapy session. Lawrence is in the coffin with a chain around him, and Lucard monologues about how it's a case of split personality. Alfred became a vampire, and then he couldn't handle the guilt of being a vampire, and so his personality split, creating Lawrence, who then somewhere over the hundreds of years, which means that this guy's been creating zombies around town for ages, Lawrence wanted to become a vampire too.
Yeah.
And so he's in conflict with himself. So when you were wondering about stuff like who they are, there is no they.
Okay.
Like Lawrence is he's just got TV show split personality and, dissociative identity disorder or whatever. He's
fair enough.
I don't know how you do this with the DSM no longer having that in there, but millionaire remake or billionaire remake. Okay. So then Lucard's like, well, I'm just going to seal you up. And I was really hoping for the Indiana Jones ending where we find out Lucard's just got tons of weirdo vampires he keeps on ice to mess with later. But they don't do that.
No.
But instead we get Lawrence Alfred the vampire whining as he seals the coffin, and Lucard being like, dude, Lawrence is in there, talk to him.
Yeah.
And then he seals it with a silver nail and a hammer like we heard about earlier.
I'm not sure if this is the best way for a mental health professional, not that Lucard is, to handle this serious disorder. Now, it is a great way to prevent vampires from attacking people. I don't know.
Lucard shouldn't have been able to touch that silver nail.
And he's using a bare hand too. I don't think he was wearing a glove.
He was also drinking wine during that scene.
Well, so, we've been through that with his doctor who says, you're eating human food. You're living like a human too much, and you need to be more like a vampire, right?
Yeah. So he just seals him up, and that's the end of the episode. But it does it's kind of a pretty good episode for Geordie.
It was good. It was good for him. Is. Yeah. Absolutely. He was, he has in the last, 3 or 4 episodes become like the best thing about the show.
I feel like since the girlfriend episode, since we got past that, yeah. Also, he's become good too. Because you could still be the best thing about this show and be quite bad.
But he's not bad. He's really good at playing just sort of like the cold. He's cold, right? And so he's good at being the straight man in terms of comedy. But he's also just much better.
Yeah.
He's not so physical, except for the fake lifting of the coffin. He's not so physical. We don't see him moving a lot, he's just kind of standing still and there's a shot right on him.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. Because he was like in cars before and walking on the street and in his office. I don't know. Maybe just everybody else is so bad, and him playing opposite them gives him the opportunity to like really shine.
I mean, no, because they were all really bad at the beginning of the show. So yeah, I think it's just some sort of, well, they did make some change. It's the new hair. His hair got bigger and it allowed for better acting.
That's gotta be it. That's gotta be it.
So yeah, like he's kind of okay. Like it's a bummer almost. Like this show actually, there was some potential, at least in his casting. Like it's, I don't know how you would do it. Like, I don't know with the budget. I don't know with just the realities of the production. I don't think you could make it happen, but he's gotten good. Like I enjoy watching his performance. I was kind of worried this one wasn't going to go well, but then he started doing the lean thing and I'm like, this is silly, but he's making the comedy beat. Whereas we have Bernard Barrett's tripping over every, just like, oh, so bad, just so bad. Oh,
no,
man.
I'd like to bring Geordie back and maybe have Chuck Wagner be like his brother or something, and they can be vampires together. But how do you explain their aging? I guess.
Well, we will sell the idea to Netflix.
Okay.
And they will give us $300 million and we will CGI them down like the Irishman.
Oh, good idea. And he's been doing work. An episode here, an episode there, Geordie. Yeah. That's it for episode 19. Thank you all for listening. See you next week when we talk about My Dinner with Lucard. I will bring the wine. Andrew, see you in Television Land.
Emily, see you in Television Land.